Hey y'all, we've got some confessions and some dark truths. Oh, yeah, we're getting into it right after this. Hey y'all, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Well, I tell you what, this was quite a part three to Vanderpump Rules. Did you watch? Did you see? Did you get involved? How do you feel about what took place? Did you feel differently about what was going to happen? Did you think that things were going to be any more crazier than they already are? Well, boy, did they not disappoint, but we had to wait to the very end to get all that information, didn't we? I mean, honestly, it took a while. So, yes, as you can see, we are talking about Vanderpump Rules. I am excited to be getting to the point that we are now on part three. And it was just such a crazy ride that we have been on, that ride being known as Scandoval. I mean, it has been so uh, I don't know, is so intoxicating with truths and confessions and rather dark ones. And that's what the whole play on was because we didn't know what was actually going to happen. Now, some of us probably thought, look, they're probably putting too much into this, they're hyping it up too much. And yeah, I can see how someone would feel that way because at some point, that's exactly how it felt. That what more could we have gotten out of this situation, right? What more could have happened? Because at the end of the day, we had seen so much. I mean, CNN, for heaven's sakes, was covering it, right? So, yeah, it was just interesting to see how all of this was going to play out. It was going to play out in a way that made any sense to anybody because it was so insane what happened. And I, for one, feel like I don't know if rave was the right word that I've heard used with Raquel about her coming out with some of the things that she had to share. But yeah, it was quite crazy. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. I got my notes because there's so many things I want to cover, so many things I want to know from you about what's going on, your thoughts, everything. Make sure you're leaving it down in the chat area if you're watching me live, and definitely make sure you are leaving in the comment section if you're following and coming back for the recap, which I hope that you do. Now, if you have not already seen part one and part two, I did recap and review and chatted about those. So make sure you go ahead and check that out on my platform as well. And of course, welcome, 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 welcome to my home here on the internet. I am so excited again to be covering this part three because partly I'm glad it's over. And I sure would love to know about yours. So make sure you let me know. Okay, so before we start getting into the nitty gritty, let's just do a little bit of an overview recap of what's going on with a few of the cast members, or maybe all the cast members. I don't know, a few of the cast members, because I don't think everybody's in the same boat here, and some of the positive things that are going on in their life, right? So why don't you start with Lala Ken, right? Lala, she is really, coming into her own. She's really doing what she can to, beef up her entrepreneurial journey and as well as raising her beautiful little girl and really moving herself forward from what she feels is a very toxic and dangerous relationship that she had emotionally dangerous, at least, with Randall. So there's a lot going on with Randall, as some of y'all may have already seen. I believe there was a Hulu special on some of his stuff called The Randall Scandal, if I'm not mistaken. If you have had an opportunity to check that documentary out, leave that in the chat and tell me what you thought about it. At some point, I may go ahead and do a look-see myself because I'm kind of interested in all of the things that are being alleged that Mr. Randall had partaked in. But, Lala, of course, she looked great for the whole reunion and she did not let up. She had her pedal to the metal. That was all she was going to do, was get everything out that she needed to get out in that reunion. And I think she did a great job at doing that. It was a lot of fun moments, a lot of interesting things shared. But yeah, nevertheless, she didn't disappoint. And usually in reunions, she doesn't. And then we've got James, he's doing really well with his DJing. So that's really good to hear. Everybody seemed to be really happy within their personal lives outside of Vanderpump Rules, right? And then, of course, you have Sheena, who, she's been married to Brock for longer than a year now. We just didn't know that. But they seem to be happy with bliss, and she's got things going on in her entrepreneurial journey as well. So she also has a podcast, and, I know all about a podcast because I've got one myself. If you haven't checked it out, Motivation Suit with April is what it is. One of those little plugs there. Shameless, not so shameless. But yeah, I mean, so it's a lot of things going on with everybody, right? Of course, Sandoval, I don't know what's happening with him beyond in shorts. I think he's trying to figure out his life, but he is on a couple of reality shows. I think he's trying to carve out a path for himself post Vanderpump Rules in case things don't work out. But we'll see how that goes. And Katie, she looked refreshed. So these are at least some of the good things that we got to, see in motion as everything else was falling completely apart. But as we all saw, the moment of truth was coming for Raquel was going to get behind that camera and out of that trailer and onto the stage with the rest of the cast members, which she had shared. She was a little bit nervous, Don route scared, really, to see Ariana. Everybody else, I think, at this point, it just kind of goes through in one ear and out the other, right over the head, past the light. Because sometimes when Rachel looks at you, she looks like she's either literally processing what you're saying. Like you can see it in her eyes. And sometimes it's like she's a bit vacant or not there, or it's like kind of like she is downloading the information and you physically can see that from her. And I wonder if some of that also comes from her training in the pageant world, because I did feel like some of the things and the way that she answered things during the reunion was kind of like she was rehearsing for a pageant. When you get up and say those nice little answers to whatever the questions they throw at you to try to see if you rated high enough in order to walk around with this crown. So unfortunately, she didn't win that last pageant and she's out of that cycle. But I really feel that was part of kind of that robotic feel that was connected to that. Now, not everybody who is in a pageant performs in that way, but there is a trending of individuals that we have seen, throughout history, really, in which it's very stiff and very just kind of make sure I get everything said just exactly right. There were moments that I thought that maybe she was feeling just a little bit about what was going on, and then she might pull back out. And so nevertheless, sometimes that could be a little bit tricky to see exactly where she was at and where she was landing on a lot of things that was being said. So let's go ahead and dive a little bit further into those confessions and those dark truths. Okay, so now Rachel, she is super embarrassed as she comes on stage. She is sharing when she sits down. Everybody's looking at her with laser beam focus as she's walking out. I think you probably could only hear her heels clickety clacketing across the floor as she sat down, and nothing else could you hear, nothing but anything else. You couldn't even hear a whisper. Everybody wanted to know how this was going to pan out. It was probably one of the moments for the Vanderpump Rules reunion. So there we have it. She came out, she did share, she was embarrassed. That's how she felt. She was doing as best as she could. She wasn't proud of herself. She also knew that she had some apologies, many apologies to everyone on the cast that she needed to, convey. And whether or not they took it in, believed it or not is one thing, but the fact that she knew that she needed to make those apologies. So there's that. We start going right on into her drunken night at Lake Havasu and Las Vegas trip. If you remember earlier part in the reunion, the ladies went to go basically a girls trip. Sheena, of course, due to the issues with Tom Schwartz and Katie triangle issue, she was not invited to that trip. But Raquel oddly was, because Katie felt that maybe if you took Raquel out of the beam light of Sheena, she may be a different person. She could find something to talk with her about and maybe commiserate with her about, because of course Katie and Sheena, their relationship is tenuous at most and sometimes strained at best, right? So at the end of the day, she wanted to give her an opportunity because she felt that, hey, look, as it was stated that Sheena had put in the thought in her mind, and so she had to act on it in that very robotic way, right? Someone told her something, so she needs to run with that. But I think in that situation, we find a little bit more underneath the surface, even about that it really wasn't quite Sheena put something in my mind and I ran with it. It was something that was probably already on my mind. And by Sheena saying, hey, you should go check it out and have a little bit of fun with Schwartz, Okay, irregardless of Katie's feelings about that situation, irregardless that Katie still was legally married to this man. Yes, they may be separated, but she's still married to him. And you're in the friend group. So why must she have to watch you do all this canoodling right in front of her? It's rude, it's disrespectful. And I totally understand Katie's feelings on that. I totally agree with her. Tom is lucky that nothing else happened beyond the words that was said to him, because in another situation, someone else might have had another reaction to that situation. But because we see that, Sheena was definitely one of the cheerleaders for Rachel, I might entertain that back and forth. I don't know. We'll see. But now that we get to see that as it unfolds, we really do find out that, yeah, maybe Raquel already had some, sights set on Tom Schwartz in the first place. And when things had went along and it wasn't going to happen that way because Katie was really putting out those guardrails, she decided to set her sights on Tom Sandoval. So we talk about that, right? Lake Havasu. Look, Raquel was a hot mess. She got drunk. She had quite a bit to drink. There's not a problem with getting drunk and having fun as long as I guess you are safe, right? And you're making sure that you're not doing anything stupid you're going to regret the next time, right? Well, there was a lot going on there. And I think she was the only one who had been drinking, by the way. I think the rest of the ladies were either not drinking or drinking very lightly. But at the end of the day, she really did make a fool of herself with those ladies. And that was a hard crowd to please anyways. So as she is making a fool of herself and getting herself tipsy-topsy in Las Vegas, because that's where the first stop was, because I believe Lake Havasu is over there somewhere around Utah, she basically, she had her sight set on Oliver. Now Oliver is Gabrielle, not Gabrielle. What's her name? Oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank here? Oh, the beautiful one from Beverly Hills. I can't think. I don't know why I have Gabrielle Union in my head for some reason. That's not who it is. It'll come back to me later. But Oliver, basically, he's out on the prowl and he takes a liking to Raquel. So Raquel takes a liking to her. Now we also know that Lala was interested in him as well. Interested in the fact that she thought he was an interesting enough person to, kind of hang out with a little bit, and we'll see. But she wasn't really deeply vested in it. Well, Raquel was like, hey, look, I'm kind of interested. Lala says, well, go ahead, shoot your shot. So that's what she did. She shot her shot, right? So she got the kissing and all that good stuff on the dance floor. So we saw that. Now, when she got back to the place that they were staying in, the hotel room, she, and her drunken state of being, had made a comment because Lala actually had said, you're kind of dangerous. I don't think I would have you drunk around my man, right? And what did Raquel said? Well, those words are things she came to regret, which was simply letting her know, look, it's a good thing you don't have a man for me to go after, right? Oh, but little did we know whose sight she was setting on. And I think at that time, it was already being connection with Sandoval. So yeah, that was all kinds of heck and fire, right? So we're moving past that point. That was an awful evening for her. Going on into their car ride to Lake Havasu after they are leaving Las Vegas. And Rachel has a breakdown in the car, right? Thinks that she's having a panic attack. She's feeling like she's having some anxiety and she's just having a really hard time. It's a difficult time. It was a bonding time, we all thought, with the ladies in the car, because they all really did try to take really good care of her, make sure she had water checked on her, wanted to see how she was doing. It was really some true care given in that moment, and that's what was talked about on the reunion. Now with that breakdown, she then flips it, because we didn't know this or felt this at the time. I personally thought it was nice that everybody kind of came to her and just wanted to make sure she was okay. Well, then she says that she feels, now looking back on it, well, that they were too hard on her when she had dinner with them the night before in Vegas, when she was talking about the issue about the sleeping together and stuff like that with other people's men. Now, Lala had to step right on in and say, looky here. I don't know why you're having an issue with that now, because you didn't have an issue before. You were good to go. But what it was that you realized what you said was stupid by the fact that you had made that comment that I was lucky that I didn't have someone that you can kind of sink your teeth into. So in order to save face, because that didn't look good, you wanted to come back and let's now manufacturally be upset about that situation that happened so many years ago, right? And unfortunately, she did not find out about it, at least verification of it, until after her and James had broken up. So people have less interest and empathy and sympathy for her regarding that situation in that friend group, because of the fact of the matter is that it was so long ago. Whether that means something or not to anybody else is one thing, but it was not only so long ago. She did go ahead and dump James on national TV at the last reunion. So therefore, Lotta didn't feel she had any regard or any need to do anything else or say anything else about that situation. But there we have it. So at that point, it was interesting, and I'll go into that a little bit later about what Lala felt as a response to her Raquel saying, that this was a kind of precipitous moment because of the fact that she was really kind of it was just a difficult conversation at the table, right? So one thing that Raquel also showed is that she had a personality shift over the summer, right? So she knows that things had changed for her, and her personality shift had changed from being such a people pleaser, which of course she's in pageants, right? Of course, maybe in her family structure and past friendships. I'm pretty sure she probably was in lots of situations where she would be one of those individuals that would be a people pleaser. So many of us, unfortunately, are at times. And sometimes you have to get to a point where you have to stop doing that and start looking out for yourself, because it's detrimental for you to do that. However, Raquel's situation thinks that, well, I'm going to take from not pleasing anyone at all to pleasing just myself, but it's like pleasing myself in spite of everyone else. That's not quite how that's supposed to go, Raquel, but that's how she took it. She says she was selfish. Ariana said, oh, no, betray friend, my friend. She said diabolical. She said demented. She said disturbing. And she said subhuman. I need you to get a better vocabulary, a better usage of words to describe how and what you did, because selfish, honey, does not cut it. And I have to say, yes, Ariana, I agree. I don't know too many people who probably don't, other than the ones that might say, look, hey, you lose them sometimes, how you get them. So nevertheless, we're moving on. Raquel then does what she said, seeing when Ariana about her desire to sleep with being an intimate. I'm not really sure what that part was about, but there's just a moment I was thinking about, and I'm not sure. Yeah. Oh, that's right. There was apparently a rumor that was going around, and it was a rumor in which they were saying that Rachel, not putting the two names together, that Raquel had shared with someone that, the situation between Tom and Ariana was like an open relationship, right? So that was what was going on. There was a lot of friction about that. Raquel said she never said that. Tom defended her. Ariana said, yes, well, look, Raquel is a liar, so she's probably lying about that, because there was moments that it was brought up in the last couple of episodes of the season. I believe Sheena's the one that introduced that fact, that she was told or heard that this was being shared by Raquel. So, but Raquel says, no, that's not what happened. So yeah, it was quite interesting. Then we get into a whole level of laughter about Tom saying that you can't live in logic, right? Because there were so many words coming back at him. I think that he was on just lost it, and it was quite interesting. It was quite funny that he said about the logic, and our girl, everybody was like, we can't. And I mean, the laughter was so palpable that he just wanted to really say, look, sometimes you operate in emotion, you don't always operate on the things that you should be doing the way that you be doing. And that can be true, but at the end of the day, nobody's trying to hear that, because the bottom line is you shouldn't have did what you did. Then we always go back to that, right? You should have did what you did. All right. So in that same vein, Lala and James are called out by none other than Raquel about them sleeping together. They have no reason to say anything, she says. Lala gets up and says, I don't know what you're talking about, lady, because the bottom line is I wasn't your best friend, okay? And when I did sleep with him, it was in the early stages of you, the early stages of me with my man. And then when I did get to meet you, I didn't like you. Matter of fact, she said she hated her. So therefore, she really didn't care about what Raquel was going to say or what Raquel's feelings were. The difference that she feels, and she stated very eloquently is that you were best friends with Ariana. This was someone who stood up for you. This is someone who took care of you. This is someone that actually was there for you all the time. You called her your best friend. That's the difference. So I think sometimes Lala, no matter how many times she says it, some people are just not going to agree with her thought on that. But nevertheless, when they talk about, whose situation is worse and why are you having such an issue, she's going to keep saying it and letting us know. Also, we talked a little bit more about the fact that Lala says she is not a mistress. Gosh darn it, she is not a mistress. Now, we go diving into that quite a bit because if you remember in the season, Lala had a conversation with Raquel. It was during Lala's birthday party dinner. Okay, her birthday dinner with the friends and the cast, who she purposely did not invite Raquel because her and Raquel were having words at this point. Okay, because at the end of the day, we know that Raquel had basically cut out of the Lake Havasu situation because she felt, she felt probably bullied, felt like everyone's against her and all those types of things. So that didn't leave anybody on good terms. But Lala's got a baby to take care of, right? She's got things going on in her life. So at the end of the day, you and your issues don't matter that much. At least at that point, they didn't matter that much, right? But Raquel wanted to contact Lala in that moment, I guess maybe because it was an opportunity to be in a scene and let her know, hey, look, I need to talk to you because as we know, Oliver basically does have to confirm with Raquel that he is messing around still with his soon-to-be ex-wife. I don't know if he's ex-wife or not at this point. But there's some back and forth going on there because he's not legally divorced at the time. And apparently it was alleged the spouse had put some information out there on the internet when she found out that her man was out there doing things allegedly that he wasn't supposed to be doing. So, Raquel had ended that visit that was supposed to happen with him. She wants to make a beeline to Lala to basically tell Lala, I apologize for calling you a mistress because now I feel like a mistress. And Lala, in her really, I think, very empathetic way says, look, honey, you're not a mistress. The bottom line, he lied to you. He told you something. You thought of something was something and it wasn't. And that's not your fault. And, so I think Lala in her own situation feels the same way because she felt she was lied to in her relationship, that things were happening and things were going on and that she was told that they were separated. Okay. And this is where we have the tricky lines when you are getting yourself involved within relationships with people who are not completely done legally with someone. Because at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, if there's still legal papers between you two, just because emotionally you may not be connected anymore, that's irrelevant. Because at the end of the day, if something was to go down and something was supposed to be looking at, that marriage license is going to be what trumps it all. So, you're going to have people who are going to say, look, when you are separated, that means that you are unwinding the situation. You're getting yourself together to be on your own. And when that divorce is free and clear, then you can do whatever you want to do. So that's always going to be a sticking point for people, right? So at the end of the day, that was her stance on the mistress comment. Again, it's one of those things I think she's talks about, and no one's going to really, if they don't believe in that or don't feel her on that, they're just not going to agree with her. But she's going to keep letting you know that because that's what it is. But I will want to put this out there. Sometimes, if you are in a situation, unfortunately, as a mistress, it may not always be because you willingly became one, right? Maybe in the situation, if you've been lied to and you don't know the truth about what's going on, you unbeknownst became one. But at the end of the day, it's a difference about intent. And I think that people still question intent as well. But, only Lala and Randall really truly know the truth. And that's that. So then we move on to a dark truth moment. And that is that the question was given to Rachel about how could she go and mess with Tom Schwartz when she had already slept at least one time with Tom Sandoval. And her response was basically she was able to put a cap on what was going on with Sandoval, right? Because in that moment, at least she knew that it was wrong and he's not available. So therefore, we got that one out. So let me go ahead and just set that aside. And I'm going to go after Tom Schwartz. Here's the dark truth moment, because she had already been curious about hanging out and kicking it with him in the first place. Blew my mind. Now, interesting enough, if there wasn't a Katie situation, right, or if it was approved by Katie, I could honestly see Tom Schwartz and Raquel together more than I could even see Tom Schwartz and or Tom Sandoval and Raquel together. Now, of course, it works for both for different reasons, but Tom Schwartz and Raquel, I swear, are like cut from the same board. I'm not really sure what's going on with either one of them. I don't know. There's a lot of awkwardness going on. There's a lot of things happening there that just doesn't seem to connect for me personally, but hey, but I could see them. It would kind of give me the vibes of just kind of like, hi, that kind of a relationship, right? And there would be probably not any real expectations of him. Like Katie had expectations and she had standards and she had values and, things that she wanted and should have been able to get and depend on with her husband. Obviously, Tom Schwartz was not able to provide that for her, and it's a shame that things work out the way they are. I think they should have always just been friends. My opinion, that's that. But that was quite a dark truth moment because she's really holding on, she being Raquel, to the fact that she really did have an interest and a connectional feeling, a bit of some kind of cosmic thing going on with Tom Schwartz. And I really was like kind of still shocked about that they were going on with that line. Because it really seemed when they were together, because we didn't know it yet, but when she was going messing with him and dealing with him, it really was kind of in a mode to be secretive about what really was going on behind the scenes that we did not know about. So yeah, the plot continued to thicken. So another conversational turn that we went to was talking again about Lala, and Raquel wanted to take the opportunity to share with her and everyone else and all of us, why she thought things were the way they were between her and Lala. She had felt at some point that the reason why Lala couldn't stand her when she was with James, okay, when Raquel was dating James, because Lala had all the attention from James. Okay. And when Raquel came into the picture as a full-time situation, not only full-time in the situation, but also full-time on that show, it took away the attention from Lala and she could not handle it. So, wow, Lala was like, this girl is delusional. She really is delusional. That's not anywhere near the situation. But yeah, that's what her thought was. That's how she felt. And then Lala promptly went and told Raquel, look, honey, I think you need to be mentally evaluated. And then Raquel, as a confessional element, let us know she is. Now, we had been hearing a little bit about that as well. But yeah, she did confirm that that's what was happening, because you would have to figure out what is going on with me and why am I making the stupid decisions like this and really potentially hurting myself in such a unnecessary way for what? To find myself? I mean, honestly, this isn't working out for me. And what I had before probably wasn't the best, but you know what? This isn't going so well either. So I need to change course somehow. So yes, reevaluating the triggers of what she's going through. There's obviously some deep rooted situations that she's going to have to unravel and uncover. And I do hope that if that is what she's working on, that she will do it and become a better person for it. Because honey, this way of going around things is not going to work out in the end. So then we move into, you remember when I mentioned the point about Lala bringing up, well, was it Lala? It might have been Lala. Yeah, no, actually started out with Rachel. She brought up about the fact that, the reason why she had the panic attack or the anxiety situation in the vehicle was because she felt that they came too hard on her the night before. Well, Raquel said, or Lala, says, hey, look, what are you talking about? You were fine about everything. And then what I think she did, right, she's letting us know, is that Raquel went ahead and weaponized that situation. That's what she said she did. She weaponized that. She took that situation. She knew she didn't look too good in front of everybody. Optics, as she likes to use often, did not go well with her scenario and the actual narrative that she wanted to push. So what she thought would be good is to go ahead and do a villainized situation on Lala, because so many people have issues with Lala anyways. So she went ahead and went with it. Although what I think she also forgot is a lot of people enjoy Lala as well. I'm one of them. So at the end of the day, it's crazy, but I do feel that she did weaponize that situation. If it is true that they had kind of came to an end situation, obviously was with the cameras probably not on, an understanding, or honestly, I think that there was a bit of an understanding or closure even with the cameras on. But under Lala's feeling and thoughts is that they had to put this to rest. It was done. It was over, So, yeah. Now, Andy did ask Raquel directly, did you weaponize this situation? What do you think Raquel was going to say? Yeah, Andy, I weaponized this for my own fodder because, quite frankly, I looked horrible in front of everybody and the optics did not work for me. No, that's not what she said. What she said was, no, I didn't do that. And this is Lala at her finest. I don't think she really meant it that way exactly, but it made an opening for Lala to say, honey, baby, I'm always at my finest. And so, because don't let Lala, she will not let an opportunity drop to make sure that she's let you know exactly where you can go and how you can get off, right? But yeah, it was interesting. Now we did move over into this open relationship controversial topic as well. This was running quite a bit since the beginning of this season because I think that people felt something was about to, a rumble and the tumble was going to happen here on the show. And there was this issue about whether Tom and Ariana were in an open relationship. Now, Tom Schwartz wanted to lend his words of wisdom and share what he thinks the origin of that story came from. He feels that the origin of that situation was between the fact that there was rumors some years ago about Billy and Ariana and Tom getting together and, having relations with one another at the same time. Well, Ariana quickly had debunked that rumor and basically said, looky here, we have never had any company in the bedroom. So therefore, that is false. That never happened. But apparently it was a rumor. Tom Schwartz said, yeah, it was a rumor. We didn't believe it either, but it caught on like wildfire. Probably because maybe Tom or somebody was a little bit too friendly with someone. And, people talk or make things out of something. And there you have it. Please don't let Billy come back to the show. But yeah, I just don't want to invoke that situation because I don't have a problem with Billy B on the show. She is not anything like she was before. Then I'm okay because I don't want to hear any of her complaining, her moaning, and all of that foolishness. I don't want to hear it. There's too many other things going on in life. And if that's the best that you can lead with, then you can lead off. So there you go. So moving on. I guess, everybody just accepted whatever Tom Schwartz said about that. Now, a question was asked of Raquel. Who has she been staying with after the blow up of everything, right? The scandoval of it all. Where have you been? Because, she took a couple of interviews she was saw, I think she saw on TMZ, if I'm not mistaken. And somebody caught her outside of some kind of building looking a little less made up, I will say, and with an impromptu type of interview going on. And there was another opportunity as well. So yeah, that stuff was happening. And so he wanted to know when everything kind of blew up, where did you go? Because for their perspective, she kind of just hightailed it out of there, right? Well, what she said is she did go stay with her sister for a few days, and then she went ahead and drove to Tucson, Arizona, to spend the rest of the time with her family up until the reunion time, and she had actually flew back in the day before of the reunion. So that's where she has been. And, don't know exactly all that she was doing there other than trying to maybe rest and restore her situation. But that's where she was. And that was probably a really good thing. Then we get into a number of dark truths, right? So here we go. Here's one dark truth moment. Tom says that, yes, him and Raquel had been hanging out because Andy did ask the question, have you been hanging out over the last 3 weeks? Which the 3 weeks period of time was the time that everything blew up to the time they were in, I believe, maybe to the reunion. I don't know. Or was it to that and the end of the season? It might've been to the end of the season, end of the show, because the reunion, no, you know what? Because this all blew up in March, right? And then the reunion happened. The taping of the reunion happened in March, or blew up in late February, and then so that's the 3 weeks area, I think. That during that time frame before they actually taped, because the taping of the reunion was in March, and it then obviously was aired in May, so started in May, anyways. And he says, yeah, he came out and said they've hung out. So, for all this crying and apologies and all of this stuff that Tom has been peddling throughout the first 2 parts of the reunion and continue to do in the part 3, in between the moments that he was spazzing out with anger and seething with what was going on, because he felt probably so wrong in that moment, and that he felt that nobody had his back because everybody was supposed to have his back. He working out according to plan. Apparently nothing was working out according to plan. So I thought it was interesting, but not surprisingly, because they did catch them. They did some videoing, right? They did get them on part of the season with him going over to Raquel's studio apartment to talk about everything at the blow up that had happened 2-3 days prior to that. So we know there was some kind of communication going on even outside of what was happening on the show. The next dark truth moment was that Rachel had thought about not going to the reunion. Now, that may not have been such a surprise to many, but the reason why she said it surprised me, because she said that she felt ashamed about keeping such a secret from everyone. And she knew that this was such a tough thing for her. So it wasn't so much that she focused on the fact of doing what she did. It was the actual secret of doing it that was the issue. And I'm like, honey, before you get to feeling a way about the secret, you really need to feel bad about the fact of the act. That's what you really should be sorry about. Because if you didn't do the act, you wouldn't be in this position in the first place. But I do feel like her and Tom both feel very justified in why they did what they did. They felt they were in love. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But that they felt they were in love. She most certainly was smitten by him. She had never felt the kind of love that she had felt for Tom, apparently, and she wanted to know what that felt like, and it was intoxicating. So, yeah, they talked a little bit about that too. So that was one. Another dark truth was that the apology that now is, she talks about the fact that now she sees the consequences, right? She sees the consequences of her actions, like it's unfolding in front of her. Like she really could not compute what could happen of forward movement beyond what she did. And so this is what we talk about when you talk about doing things. You know, when you do actions, you need to kind of think about how this may play out. And I think she was so much about living in the moment, living in my truth in the moment, living in whatever I want to do because I feel like it's all about me, me, me. She totally forgot about what it meant and what it would feel like if I did this to someone. I mean, honestly, she's still upset about the fact that she found out that her boyfriend slash fiance, prior ex, whatever, cheated with another cast member, and you're upset and still carrying that. So imagine how devastated you would feel if the same scenario that you put Ariana in, she put you in. Would you have been okay with that? Doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? But that was a dark truth that was shared, that she really didn't see what was coming before it was coming. Anyone else with some sense and some empathy and some just wouldn't do that kind of crap would have seen this. Nope, not Raquel. She was not going to see it, not near, not one of it. So, with that being said, we move on to another dark truth. Now, Rachel did because of the connection, right? She did it because of the connection, because that was a question asked by Andy. Why did you do it? Why did you do it? Raquel. Well, she said, look, I was connected. We had this I don't know, beams of light and stars are shining and all of that good stuff happening and all of the mojo was, transferring from him into me. And we just had no choice but to hop into bed with each other because that was the right thing to do. And unfortunately, I didn't have enough sense not to do what I was doing. But, hey, that's what it was. And and you know what? I want to go ahead and pop up something here real quick. So I hope you guys can still see me what I'm doing because I am moving on really fast onto something that I wanted to put in there. But let's keep talking about that a little bit because it was so insane what she was saying and in regards to the fact that she did not take any kinds of precautions, even for her own self, to know that what she was doing was incorrect. It was really sad, y'all. It really was sad. It was really, really sad. And I felt bad for her because she really just seemed to not really understand the consequences of her actions until now, right? Until now. So then we are moving on to the fact that, of course, Ariana had something to say about that. She was very, very upset about that. And, there was lots of crying, lots of yelling, lots of words being said, lots of moments happening that really was not to, I'm sure, Raquel's liking. Now, Ariana did very much let them know about how much of an abomination this relationship was, how much this was so wrong. It was garbage. It was trash. And at this point on, she would be better for it, this being Ariana, that she will never see or speak to Rachel ever again. So, yeah, I think she will be better for it because I can't see she could not have any moment where she'd be in a room by herself with her. I just couldn't see it. Now, also, this was a hard moment. And you tell me what y'all thought about this, but I thought this was quite a hard moment. The question was asked about the fact if, she was in love or she shared that she was in love. And then Tom was asked if he was in love. And Tom just dragged that answer out, didn't he? I mean, your butt cheeks are already out there, okay? Everybody knows what you did. So if you really are in love with this chick, which of course I don't believe for 1 second he's in love or was in love, because from what I understand, I don't think they're even together anymore. It may have been before, Raquel, or that it was reported that Raquel had broken it off with him. Save face kind of thing is what my feelings are on that. Any event, the fact that you did all these things, you tore up your situation as it stood, and it meant nothing to you. So why would you lie or hold on to it? I mean, at this point, everybody said everything they were going to say to you. And so he drags this moment on. He had to ask him again, dude, like answer the question, And I really honestly felt like two things are going to happen, right? And two things can happen at the same time, really. But what he ended up doing is what I thought he was going to do most, is say that he was. Because look, he looks like a straight buffoon for what he did to Ariana, right? Regardless of what, transpired before that. But I did feel like he probably would say, if he was to say no at that moment, it probably we would have seen Rachel's face crack all over the floor, and she would have shattered to a million pieces. Maybe she would have held it together, but I definitely think that vacant stare that you see often would have definitely went right into most. She would have been in processing, downloading, and that would be all that would be happening there. She would not be going into this in a very well way. Let's just put it that way. So after a long, intense, what felt like 2 hours, he responds, well, I hate to say it, but yes, I do. And I'm like, bull crap. You do not love Ariana, or well, you didn't love Ariana either. You wouldn't do what you did, but you did not love Raquel Rachel. That's absolutely buffoonery. You did not love her. You were in lust. You felt that your mojo was gone. You needed somebody to basically coach your ego, and that's what you found. That's what it is. You wanted someone that didn't challenge you. You wanted someone that wasn't as witty as you or wittier than you, so you went where you went, and that's what that is. But yeah, I think that was a lot about saving face, to be honest with you, because again, I don't think they've been together now. So what was the point? Oftentimes, relationships that start off in a position where there's cheating involved, the thrill of that, the lustful feel of being able to get away with something, sneaking around, has its own desires, right? But then sometimes when you guys stop doing that, everything is out there. You've been called everything in the book, it's not so appealing anymore. And I think that's what they were suffering for. So yeah, but at the same time, Lala does say, look, Ariana, at this point, it's not a big deal, right? No, she didn't say it wasn't a big deal. I'm saying that. You got rid of two horrendous people out of your life at the same damn time. So therefore, this worked out really great for you, because these people are gone. They're done. You don't need to worry about them anymore. And they're both out of your life, and you are going to be better for it. Also, too, as she is telling her this, Ariana takes a look at Raquel, and she did that, straight dagger to the eyes, and said, look, you are nothing. You are absolutely nothing. I want you to know that. I want that to sink in. And of course, we do remember through the show that that's what she said to Tom, not the same exact words, but she did the exact same thing when she said, I wish that I had never loved you. And I want you to feel that. I want you to see that. I want you to know all of that. And I know that hit somewhere. I know that felt somewhere. And I felt that as Raquel was watching every word fall out of Ariana's mouth, she was focusing, she was downloading, she was focusing on what was being said to her, because it was horrible what she did. Now how she feels after that point, we'll see. Anyways, Lala also goes further, says, hey, he says he loves you, which we know that's a joke. You say you love him, that's great, but you're going to lose him. Just like, you are going to hear the same kind of things. You are going to feel the same kind of things as Ariana did, because you're next in line, boo-boo. You are next in line. And accordingly, she's right. Lala was right a lot through this season, I'd have to say. But, like she said, this love, this so-called whatever thing you guys got going on, is not going to last. Put it in the comment section if you thought it was going to last. Apparently, I don't think it has lasted, but you can say what you thought, if you were a betting person in the beginning. Then they did bring up about the fact of, if you remember in the show, that there was a day that Raquel was seriously late for work, and they brought up the situation about her staying over at Tom's overnight. She'd woken up late, got in late, and then she felt the need to tell Lisa the full truth about what was going on, because as we find out later on, she doesn't like to lie. So she made sure she told it all. And well, not everything, maybe. And so, it was kind of distressing, considering that Ariana has been back and forth due to very important people and beings in her life being gone. And this was it was horrifying that Tom would do this on her. It really was such a soulless thing to do, actually. But yeah, the karma behind that. Wouldn't want nothing of that. But what was it? Lisa, gives Tom a call to find out what the heck is going on and why was she at your place, and all these types of things. Of course, Tom wanted to play, a bit coy about the situation, but gig is up. We all know something's going on. Something's going on. But I did take a moment to take a look at Rachel's face when her eyes kind of dropped when the question was asked to him directly. Did you ever have, did you have sex that night? And basically, did you ever have sex in the house? And I watched Rachel's face, and that became a noted point for later on. Of course, Tom was swearing by the fact that absolutely not, that did not happen. And he was emphatic about it, right? So interesting when people are so emphatic about things and the way they say it. It's not about being emphatic, it's the way you say it. And then usually they're lying to you right through their teeth. And I think as time has gone on since the reunion had wrapped, which was in late March, we've seen some things, heard some things. And so we know that wasn't true. But that's what was being said at the time. Then, of course, we get to the fact, again, he said he did not ever hook up with her. There was a moment when Tom Schwartz thought it was a really cool idea to make a comment about, how does that feel to have the entire nation on your side about everything that happened? How does it feel to have all that support? Because, Tom didn't have any support. Well, Tom put himself in that situation. So there's that. And I honestly think Ariana was going to answer that question, but she did. She got emotional and she basically let him know straight up, I'm going to tell you how that made me feel. I'm going to answer that question. The thing is this, I am so grateful for everybody who has shown me support, for people that I didn't know, for people that I did know, for all my friends, for everybody on this cast outside of Tom Schwartz and, of course, and and the like, and how much they supported her and were there for, and literally had to take care of her because she had lost like 8 pounds in a week. She wasn't eating. She was distraught. She was upset. And literally them being there really helped her get through it. And she was so grateful and so thankful for all of that support and love. And yes, you guys, all you fans out there of Ariana, those supporters of Ariana, y'all did that thing by helping her with the merch situation, what's going to help that something about her sandwich shop get off that ground and everything. And I think it was really great to see the ground swelling support that Ariana got, because often when we are in situations like this, you don't have that support, right? You don't have a bunch of people. Sometimes you have a lot of people victim blaming you, saying it's your fault, a lot like what Tom was doing, and Raquel would piggyback on it every now and again, that it's your fault that we cheated on you. You did this, you didn't do that, and that's why we're here today. That is a lot of what was going on most times. So the fact that she was able to share that, I thought was really, really special. And she's so grateful, so thankful. A lot of great opportunities, as we all know, has been opened up to Ariana because of what she's going on, for the simple fact of empathy that has been spread around so much towards her, because this was just a horrible situation. And even if you did not watch the show, you were not a fan of the show, never saw the show, just the story alone was so egregious. And, one of the things that can make it something that becomes so skyrocketed and understanding and wanting to know why this happens is because this does happen to people on an everyday basis. And this is her life. Even though she's on a reality show, this is her life. This is actually happening to her in her life. She did not create this. She did not curate this. This is what's going on. And now not only she's got to deal with the betrayal, the level of this betrayal that it is, she's got to deal with that and the breakup and everything subsequently in front of everyone, the whole entire world to see. That's an awful lot for somebody to handle. And especially someone who's already shared that she's had moments and times with dealing with depression. She's had moments and times dealing with anxiety. She's been very transparent and very caring and sharing her struggles, because just because you're sitting on a TV show doesn't mean your life is perfect, right? So, it was pretty, overwhelming, to say the least, what she had to deal with. And I can think of quite a few people who probably that have been in not even the full gamut of the similar situation, but just in bits and pieces, would not have handled as well as she did. Because at the end of the day, sometimes hands get laid when you do stuff like that. So another thing that was also mentioned about was, yeah. There was also a moment too where I think it was when Lala was saying to Raquel, hey, look, this is going to be you, boo. This is going to be you. He's going to be doing the exact same things to you. And you remember Andy was kind of asking the question like, oh, really? Like what? So you think, this is going to happen. Like this could be the same. It could happen to her too. you know, and James, was like, yeah, you know what she's talking about. And I thought that was so funny because James was like not here for any of the buffoonery when it came to Raquel, right? And, also it was just the sadness of the whole situation, right? I think the moments that Ariana was able to really just be vulnerable and tell how she felt, and helping that with really getting in there with the zingers that she did and kept her composure as she did in those moments, I just thought that, bravo, Ariana, bravo. You handled it well. You really did. And of course, James wanted to make sure he was not going to be without being a part of that by letting Raquel know, hey, look, I just want you to know, boo. Yeah, you, yeah, you. Ali was an upgrade. Okay. Ali was an upgrade, not a replacement. And it's so funny because before he said that, I was thinking that, when Raquel had mentioned that in the show during the season, that, it's like Ali was just a replacement for her. In a funny way, it kind of did somewhat feel like that. Not maybe so directly in the kind of person she is, but replacement as like a placeholder, right? All of a sudden, she was his girlfriend living with him. Then she's being ingratiated with a friend. She's also got the sweet demeanor. She's soft and sweet and just kind of the same way, although a little bit different. And maybe even easier to take seriously, because even though she talks with a softer tone, doesn't mean that something's wrong upstairs. But obviously with Raquel, it's a little bit different. She came across a little bit like a waif, and so a lot of people were not very much interested in whatever Raquel had to say. So that was basically what was going on with that point. But James wanted to make sure that he threw that little nugget at her as well. They did talk about the eggs. Remember that Ariana had towards, it was like about a week or two before the whole thing blew up in front of her face with the scandoval situation. The show was airing the fact that they were looking at doing the egg situation. So she was going to go ahead and get her eggs together, and Tom was going to go ahead and do the whole fertilizing of those eggs. Well, come to find out, she did do the egg retrieval or egg extraction, and they're there ready for her at any time she wants to, but she did not fertilize them with Tom's sperm, so that was a good thing. So there's no embryos there to speak of, so she can use that set hopefully safely if she decides she wants to have kids in the future with actual love of her life, and actually so she's supposed to be her life partner. So that was a good thing, because could you imagine the mess about that? And I honestly feel like Tom probably would have just went ahead and did all of that, and he would have done that, and then this would all have blown up. I mean, just a mess. And the situation with Sofia Vergara is going through, or was going through, with her ex-fiance in regards to having embryos and what was going to happen with them and everything after they have broken up. So it's just a windy road of confusion that can happen when these things take place. So I'm just so glad that that didn't get to that next step, because how unfair would that be for an unborn child? Or born child, nevertheless. So then we moved on from that, and we moved on to the situation about somewhere in that mix, Tom, was getting yelled at and, getting all of the berating that he deserved. And he had made the comment about the fact that when it was being comparison with him sleeping with Raquel and how could he be doing that he said, well, yeah, there was a question about, who you've been sleeping with since then. Have you slept with anybody since then? He says nobody. Someone says Chicago, somebody from Chicago. Somebody says somebody else. And he says, look, who are you getting your information from? And then Ariana says, look, I can tell you who he was sleeping with after he slept with Rachel. It was me. And then he goes with the t-shirt comment. Oh yeah, she had a t-shirt on that was real hot. So Tom is not really much in the business of helping himself out, as we know, other than helping himself out, meaning in what is in his best interest. He will help himself to things, but helping himself out of things is another story. And yeah, it was quite an unnecessary comment to make, and because he was upset and he was just having it. Well, again, Tom, this was something you put yourself in. This is what you did. You're a grown man, 40 years old now. You should be able to handle that. But yeah, we are talking to someone that does seem to have the whole element of a teenager, and I hate to even say a teenager because not all teenagers are that way. Not all teenagers are immature brats. So yeah, that's what he comes across all the time. We also did run into the name conversation, right? We wanted to know about the origins of Raquel. And Raquel didn't share, she didn't change her name. Everybody, we all assumed that she did because that's how it's reported that she, changed her name sometime along. She said no, she did not. How the story goes is that she basically was in, I think, kindergarten or first grade. I don't remember which one. And there was two other Rachels in the classroom, and so she decided she wanted to be called Raquel. And Ariana went ahead and quirked, oh yes, because she wanted to feel special. And you know what? She didn't even catch on to that, but she did agree that yeah, I wanted to be special. So she's special, all right. So that's what it was. So basically, her family was to call her Rachel, okay, and the friends would call her Raquel. Well, Ariana wanted to make sure that she had it reiterated to her that, well, you don't have any friends, so you're definitely back to Rachel, because the bottom line is your family still calls you Rachel. You don't have any friends. And she said, well, it doesn't quite add up that way. She said, well, whatever, it is today. So the bottom line is you're Rachel, and that's that. We're not talking about that. Now, I thought it was really funny because she thought that in that moment, Rachel did, in that moment, that she was going to have a camaraderie moment with Lala. So she says, well, it's a lot like Lala would feel, right? Lala said, you changed your name. Lala says, you know what, you were such a moron. And it was so funny when they clipped to Andy's face, because his expression said it all, like, oh my gosh, you just stepped right into that. And back to Lala, said, you were such a moron. I didn't change my name. Lala was an actual nickname. My name is Lauren, for many of us will know that. And because she was called Lala, she, it stuck, she kept it, and now she's using it perfectly fine. She didn't change her name, and she's not trying to hide from the fact her name is Lauren. She just goes by Lala, and that's that. And everybody does do it. And quite frankly, she does look like a Lala. And so I laugh because Raquel was like, oh okay, she says, not like you where you actually change your name. She says, why didn't you change my name? She goes, you know what I'm talking about. Right, you know what I'm talking about. It would be different if it was a nickname. Raquel's not a nickname. She says, if you were called Rocky or something like that, that would be the nickname. So it was really funny. So we got the whole story on that. It really, government wise, her name is Rachel. It's not been changed anyway, and I don't think she'd want to change it to that anyway. What was the point? All right, might as well go back to Rachel. Maybe going back to basics probably wouldn't be a bad idea. That's always a good place when you're resetting. Sometimes when you're going by other names that are not really you or about you and for you in a way that says who you are, in a positive light, because that's where she is trying to go back to. Maybe going back to basics, being called by your actual name may be a good start. So anyways, we are moving along. There was a question about whether or not Tom's family had knew about the situation with him cheating on Ariana. He said he told his mom. She was extremely surprised. They asked about, what did you think that they think about Raquel? And, of course, Ariana made sure to let everyone know that she was known as a derogatory name of a lady of the night. And why else would she not be that? Because that is what she is. So it was pretty sketchy. And also, too, the fact that when she met her mother, Raquel, when she met Tom's mother, was in question. And it apparently, he said, did not happen in St. Louis. It happened in LA when they had that Schwartz and Sandy's kind of soft opening awareness party. So soft opening, not opening, awareness party really is kind of what it was. And that's when his mom came down to LA. And that's also when we found out he was using her money from her retirement fund, I think it was, to get by. So with this whole situation. So that's what was happening there. Let's see, what else did we talk about? Yep. All right. So then we had several dark truths moments that came through, right? So one dark truth came out is that Tom says that the affair became a relationship in January 2023. That surprised Ariana at the time because obviously she's probably Rolodexing in her mind the different things that were happening around that time. So, the fact that the question was, when did this so-called love affair of yours turn into a bona fide relationship? Him saying it happened in January would have been 2023. Schwartz says that, yes, that was around the time where he was throwing around the LOVE word. And so that was, pretty hard to take as well. The next dark truth was that Rachel doesn't know where they will end up in a year from now. Now, nobody will ever really know where you end up from here or not at this point, even if you don't do the hideous things that they did. But, with everything going on, it's a lot coming at them, and she doesn't know what's going to, be in a year from this point. Now, we also get another dark truth where it says, Tom says that, he thinks it'd be a good idea for them to give it time to see if things are real, to see if things that they're feeling really is what they're feeling, which then causes a bit of confusion. Because, and I think that even Raquel was a little bit confused at that moment too, because she was thinking that this is what he was saying. I'm trying to give you some context. This is what he was saying and talking about when we started this. I don't think that's what Tom was saying. And I don't think Lisa felt that either. We were thinking that, no, he's talking about from this point on. The question was, where do you see yourself from in a year? Do you see yourself with Tom in a year? You say you don't know what's going to happen. He says, well, we need to take some time to really figure out if what this is and what we're feeling really truly is love. So in other words, you then destroyed this situation with Ariana. You destroyed her and her feelings. Now she's not, like she said, she's not the situation that she's going to be in essence, I forget the word that she used, but she wasn't going to use this to define her as a person. There, all of that is going to go on to them, and I applaud her on that. But the bottom line is, you destroyed this entire situation in the humiliation. That was the word, humiliation. She said, "I'm not humiliated; them two are humiliated." But the things that they did in response to their cheating on her was so unnecessary, and so. If you were going to do all of this, why didn't you already make the decision that this is what you were going to do and that you did it for a reason? That if it wasn't going, and if I remember correctly, Raquel and Tom, when she was in the apartment, their apartment, which may end up being their apartment, I guess, at some point. But Raquel's apartment, when he went over there in the show, they had said, look, we had made a decision that we were going to go move forward with this if we really did not feel something for each other. So I thought that was interesting that Tom was backtracking, but interesting, yes, but not surprisingly, because again, he was not in love. He was in lust. And that's just what it was. The next thing we talk about is that Ariana does not accept Rachel's apology. And that's not a dark truth. That's just a confession. One right in front of everybody's face. And I don't blame her. She's not ready to accept that apology. She doesn't have to. There's nothing that she needs to do. When and if she decides to forgive her, that is her choice. And when she decides to do that, it's no one else's, decision to tell her when and how she should do that. That is her business. At the end of the day, she does not see any kind of path forward with Rachel, and she already sure she had planned never to see her again or speak to her again. So I think that's a no-go for life. As she did say, that's a forever no. There is not going to be any reconciliation on that front. Ariana, not accepting the apology. Rachel responds back, I understand my credibility is shot. I find it interesting that before she said her credibility was in question or her character was in question. I said, your character in question? Your character is non-existent. And now she's saying, well, I understand my credibility is basically shot. No, your credibility, again, is non-existent. I mean, you're going to have to come back, not from ground zero, but from underneath ground zero into the negative sphere, because there's going to be a lot. You're going to have to prove yourself even worthy to be in a situation where you're even allowed to be around somebody else's man and be trusted like that again, because this was a really bad situation. And I do often don't feel that they understand the gravity of what they did, both of them. And even Tom, I think, because they're so up on the outside of the situation, it's so heinous and it's so embarrassing, and it affects so many things. Ask Tom Schwartz. At the end of the day, he's kind of guilt by association, because we all feel he knew more than what he's saying, and the fact that he also is in business with Tom, and so whatever affects Tom Sandoval is going to affect him too. People want to go after him because of what he did with the businesses, which they did talk about the stuff that was going on with Schwartz and Sandy's. I don't know if Tom was affected as much, but when he said that, he knows that whatever Tom Sandoval does, it rolls off to him. This is why I also think that Tom Schwartz decided all of a sudden, I'm going to go on not one but two other reality TV shows, because I think he's looking at how I can kind of separate myself from this foolishness, because I don't want to go down completely with the ship. So, apparently he's on that show Stars on Mars, which I have not seen an episode of that yet. If you have, drop that in the comment section. Let me know if you even heard of it. It's called Stars on Mars. I believe it comes on Mondays or Tuesday nights, probably on NBC or something like that. I don't know. I'll check it out and see. But yeah, that is that. And then apparently he's going on to Winter House as well. Winter House, really? Okay. So that tells me, yeah, he's kind of parlaying himself, because he may not know how this is going to work. And he may not even know if he wants to come back. I mean, it's a tenuous situation at best. You've got Katie on there. And I often wondered how that was going to work too. And if he feels that he can't do anything with being anyone else other than in their friend group, maybe being on the show with Katie is not the best thing. And, sometimes people have to move on, right? The show's been on for a long time, and not everybody may stick along for the ride. So that was another dark truth there. Katie did make a good point, good confessional point about the possibility of mending fences. Andy asked Raquel, did she think that maybe there'd be some way that she could mend fences with the cast members? And Katie jumped and said, that's not really her say so. And she's right. At the end of the day, if they don't want to mend fences with her, she doesn't have to. If they don't want to accept her apologies, they don't have to. If she doesn't, they don't want to forgive her. They don't have to. They don't want to speak to her again. They don't have to. So at the end of the day, that is something that, they will make the decision on how that goes. And of course, Raquel did agree, Katie's right. Yeah, that would be up to them if they wanted to move forward. I kind of feel like, at some point she's going to want to if she's not already wanted to. But as far as all these apologies going around to everybody, she still hasn't apologized to Sheena, and Sheena was pretty upset about that. And from what I understand, that still has not happened. But that was basically how things were starting to wrap up there. And I have to say, Lala was basically right about a lot of things. She is correct. She was right about a lot of things. She didn't like the way Raquel moved. She said she moved like a snake. She didn't like a lot of things that was going on. She had peep game on some of the stuff that was happening and too much of the closeness between Tom and Raquel earlier on. And she was right. And it doesn't happen very often, but she was right. She pegged it. I give it to her. So as they wrap up, we're getting their last words. Everybody's basically talking about how good they're doing, how things are going. I kind of went into that a little bit in the beginning because I wanted to start off on a good foot before we went into these dark truths and confessions, because it became harder and harder to go through. Now, what ends up happening is, of course, the cast gets together for their photo, which I thought was really funny. That yeah, I mean, I guess the show must go on, right? So they get their group photo at the end. As you can see, Raquel is definitely not on the photo, not in the photo, because she has to stay 100 yards. Why? Because she put on a temporary restraining order that, could not be removed in time for this reunion. Insane. So as you can see, this is, I think, a good, really almost a notable moment of who's left on here right now. At least the beginning of the start of the end for some people. So yeah, that was basically that. And, it was very somber. You hear Sheena basically say on a hot mic, that's probably the most somberest way that we've even left or had a reunion. And considering all the things that they have dealt with over the years, I would have to say she's correct. The only thing I can think that would be comparable, and it's not really comparable, but it would be so serious and really just was, sad, was Sheena's first wedding. So, and the demise of that. So yeah, I mean, it really was pretty bad. But we do see that as things are starting to break up, everybody's kind of going their own separate corners. Sandoval kind of runs behind Raquel because Raquel has to leave. And, of course, Ariana did not want to miss a moment to say, go ahead and give those rat kisses. She loves those rat kisses. Yeah, so, she basically says, she being Raquel, that, she just felt so ashamed, right? She did not realize the gravity and the levity of what she has done. And she doesn't like what the shows her as. It shows her as someone she doesn't want to be. She doesn't want to be known for someone that hurt somebody. And so this was really hard for her. She also said, ironically enough, that James's comment about Allie being an upgrade, because, Ariana said, yes, boo, you were a downgrade. And isn't that interesting how that happens most of the time, right? Where people usually cheat, I'll say usually, but it does seem to be the case a lot. It seems certain people downgrade and more than they upgrade. And at this point, for James, he upgraded, and Tom definitely downgraded. And yeah, so interesting enough, with all the pellets coming out at Raquel, that was something that actually stung, and she shared that. She was kind of open about that with Tom, that kind of hurt. That hurt. Yeah, because I'm lower than dirt, basically. And they did also have a little bit laugh at it, because she then said, well, basically that's true. She is an upgrade for me, but that's basically, she realizes that she's the common enemy, and they do kind of talk about how long they think that this whole pact with them is going to last. Quite frankly, I think it's ridiculous that even Tom brings it up, and I guess the reason why I'm saying it is because I think Tom is always trying to find a way to excuse his behavior, and it's just no excuse for it. It just isn't. So, and no, there wasn't any excuse for the behaviors he did before. There was no excuse for what he did to Kristen either. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of Kristen, but at the same time, if he started doing and stepping out on her first, and then she did an retaliation, situation. Two wrongs may not make it right, but the first wrong don't make it right either. So, at the end of the day, it's just a lot of mess. And, but, some of the final thoughts I did want to go over that they did talk and, get your thoughts on those as well. Is that, of course, Sheena and Brock, they're not rushing into having baby number two. I think that's a great idea. They're living their life. They have a beautiful baby girl with Summer Moon, and they're just enjoying everything and all the opportunities that they're going through and working through right now. And I think that's really great. So whenever they're ready, they will. And if they don't, they don't. That's wonderful. James, he's concentrating on his future, right? His future festivals for DJing. Things are really looking up for James in that arena. So I'm happy for him. Next up, Schwartz says it's very unlikely that he will ever marry again. He may have love affairs or fall in love many times over, but he will never marry again. And quite frankly, I think that is very wise of him to make that assumption, or that assertion, really, not assumption, but his assertion of that early on, because this stuff he was doing with Katie was a hot mess. So I agree with him. You don't need to be married, because there's a lot of responsibility when it comes to being married. There's a lot of accountability and responsibility, and that's something he does not do well with, and commitment as well. So next up, Katie says, you know what? I don't know if I will or will get married. It's a possibility, but she doesn't have a yearning desire to have kids. So she says, I think I'll just be one of those great aunts, that comes around, hangs out with the kids for a little bit, and then goes abroad and has a boyfriend every month. She enjoys that life. She thinks that'll be great. That'd be a great life. And whatever Katie does, I think that she will do just fine. So definitely wishing the best for her. Sandoval definitely in his big explosion of tears. And sniveling and choking on his words about how sorry he was. And he will always love Ariana. And he said, look, I will be very much looking for and cheering you on from the sidelines. Ariana says, you know what? I am going to be putting this chapter behind me, and I will not be cheering for you from the sidelines. It's understandable. That relationship is done. It's a wrap. It's donezo's. So yeah, she's grateful for everyone that has been there for her. She's grateful, that being Ariana, that all the support that she's given, and she's going to move in love with that and leave the nonsense with Tom and Raquel in the past. Lisa cried. I think it's the first time I ever saw Lisa cry at a reunion. I mean, she took a real heart to the situation with these young adults because she feels like they're like her children. And, I think that Lisa has a bit of an interesting take on things. She wanted to say, hopefully at some point they'll get to a point, because Ariana did say she would never forgive him. And she said, well, I hope that they will forgive and get to that point, but it's not necessary. And if she does, she does. If she don't, she don't. Let her have her moment. Let her have her thoughts. Let her have what she needs to have. And that's that. This is not like someone just spilled some milk on the floor and forgot to clean it up, and 2 months later you found it and it stained your floor. This man and this woman did what is a nightmare to most people in a loving relationship, and that is to violate the trust of an individual by getting together in a place that you are not supposed to be. So there's that. But Andy, kind of saves her a little bit by saying, I think really what they do need is some time. So does that mean that Vanderpump Rules is going to be put on pause for a while before filming begins? I happened to see a video with Variety that said that, they think they're going to probably start here taping soon. So might not be much of a pause there. Now, when will it actually start to air these new season here for season 11? And maybe, I guess, at the end of the year, but yeah, at the end of the day, that is basically what kind of wrapped up the bigger portion of the reunion. And then we go into just dark truth spiral with Miss Raquel. Now, one thing I had heard early in the day was a video that apparently James had said and sent out for everybody, like, look, you need to be ready for tonight. It's going to be a doozy. If you thought you were over this situation or in the mood of forgiving somebody, you may think twice. This might drag you back to how you felt in the original point. And although I didn't feel there was anything that was additionally earth-shattering, which I kind of felt like that's what was, kind of being punted that was going to be like, what I do feel is that it really highlighted just how heinous the situation was, just how unforgivable, honestly, in a lot of ways this was, and definitely not forgettable. So I don't see any kind of reconciliation happening at all. No one's going to become friends at the end between those two and them. I also did not see it to be a situation where this would stop any of the cast members from coming back for the next season. So, that was something that was kind of put out where they said, look, they've got their contracts, but we want you to hold off onto it. Watch the last of this bit. They made us wait all the way to the very end, to the last 5-10 minutes or so to get this information, but wait, because you may change your mind. So there was a lot of rumors and stuff in the speculation swirling around of what it possibly could be, but no one really could come to something that would be that a situation that would be let out in this, where everybody would feel, a reason to not be there. So I didn't see that it did that. Ariana, from what I understand, is going to come back. So if she's the only one I can think of that would really truly feel the position of not coming back, I do think that Tom Sandoval is going to come back. He was one of the originals, and I just don't see him. He's so narcissistic. I don't see himself stepping out side of the situation. Do I see him maybe taking a season off? I don't even know if they even do that, but I just don't think that that's going to happen. Well, I take that back. There was a cast member previously that did that, took like a season or two off, and then came back to the show, and then it subsequently got fired. But she, that was that situation. Now with him, maybe he may take a break to cool off, but I just don't think he's going to lose that opportunity, because, for us, and they get paid pretty well. So, he's probably going to go ahead and suck it out. It's all out there anyway. So you might as well just go ahead and do it. The only thing that there's a lot of fear that happens is that, it'll be resurrected more into what we already were talking about, right? So more stuff was going to come out that you may not have thought at the time. So, that's the only thing I could think of that probably would be something of concern. But, let's go ahead and run through some of these dark truths, because like I said, we went into a spiraling here. Now, this is where Raquel Rachel does a solo interview 6 days after the reunion wraps up. And this is what she's basically shares. She has something to tell. She cannot lie anymore. The truth needs to come out. Everything's out as it is anyway. So there's things within the timelines, which some people were very accurate on, that it may have something to do with the timeline about what really went on, how long this really was going on. But not so much even that, but what was going on in there. All right. So we're going on and moving into that. She says that she needed to tell the truth. She was in a lot of pain. She was asked, are you in pain? Because she looked like she physically was in pain. And she said, yeah, I really am. I need to get this out. So that is what she is doing. And here's this thing. We're just going to run down the list of them. The question was asked of her if this was like a regular thing between her and Tom. And she said, yeah, it was. And it amped up at a certain point. She said the second time that they had relations, they got together. I believe the first time is when they were at the Abbey. If you remember in the season, Allie was the one that brought it up to James, that they thought it was a little peculiar that they had happened to see Tom Sandoval and Raquel without Ariana at the Abbey, like around 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, Tom had said sometime within the, I think it was a part 1, maybe in the part 2 of the reunion, or maybe it was at the end of the season. I can't remember, but he did say something to the fact that, oh, well, we were all together. We were all together. It was a see you next Tuesday moment. I believe it was mentioned in the season finale, where he says we were all at a see you next Tuesday event, but that they really didn't stay and hang out with them. They decided to kind of go off on their own. Allie in the reunion space had basically said, no, that did not happen. They were not with us. And that's when Sheena and Ollie and Brock were in the trailer. And Sheena had said, yeah, they're making it like you guys were all together. She said, no, we weren't together. So however that split off, I don't know. But Tom is such a liar, you don't even know what part is truth or not. And sometimes people will say, well, maybe there's a part truth and the rest is a lie. But Tom just like everything's always a lie. So I don't know about that. So that was probably what they think the first time was. And I believe that they had mentioned that in the actual season finale. That was the first time that relations actually did happen. So then she says the second time, because if you remember in the reunion, Tom kept saying one time, and go and get into a fight and an altercation, verbal altercation with Lala, but the difference between one time or many times. Bottom line, cheating is cheating. It doesn't matter how often it is. He says, "Oh, it does matter, Lala. Yes, it does." And she's like, "No, it doesn't." So that was that. But come to find out, there was a second time, and that second time was during the Mexico wedding. Yep. So the time that they were talking about where they were looking for Raquel, they couldn't find her because if you recall, she was a bridesmaid in Sheena's wedding. And now we know where she was. Now it's firmed where she was doing. And she was sneaking away with Tom. And the sad part about it is, one, they were doing it, and then two, Ariana's on the same trip and she didn't even know what was going on right underneath her nose. Yep. Raquel shares that basically they were in the hotel. He, I guess, went off someplace in the hotel, got drunk. It's a pretty wide open space type deal, and everybody's doing everything. Hallway in front of Raquel's door so she could hear him basically drunkenly asking for where the elevator is. She decides to promptly pop herself out of there, tells the person that Tom is talking to or asking the question about where the elevator is that, oh, don't worry about it. He's just drunk. I'll take him. She brings him in, and that's when they had sex. So, yeah, it was interesting. Really interesting. There was multiple encounters in Mexico, which is like when you look back at the actual show and the things that were actually shared with the stupid kiss and all that stuff. This was what was going on in the background. So yeah, it was pretty bad. She couldn't really bring herself to tell how many times, how often it was. It just was often. And after that, things went into overdrive, right? It became more of a relationship, i.e., starting to actually coin it as love and being identified as that in January. The next thing she shares is that she wanted to tell Ariana, but somehow in the in-betweens of screwing her boyfriend, she could never find the time. But yeah, she wanted to tell her, but she didn't. And they both had conversations about it. Clearly, Tom wasn't going to say anything. I mean, of course, they did all the whole playing the guilt situation, but it is what it is. And then we move on to her sharing that she did ask, apparently, about being a throuple. She asked about, would that not be an issue with me being involved in the relationship, which doesn't that play into the open relationship comment? So now I'm looking at Raquel sideways on that point and saying, well, maybe you did say that. Everyone's saying you did. You're the only one saying it didn't. And so is Tom, but Tom wasn't there. So maybe you did. But she's now admitting, yeah, I wanted to be part of it. She said, I loved Ariana as a person. I was in love with Tom. Why couldn't that work out? And I just thought, how wild is that? Because at the end of the day, there is one persona that's out there with the whole, demure and quiet and, oh, I'm just a perfect little sweet little person. Then there's a family component. And I can't imagine that her family would be thrilled to hear her talking like this on, national TV, international TV. But, there it is. She definitely said those things. She did say they did not hook up in the jacuzzi. But she also does feel isolated right now. And of course she would be. Everybody's upset with her. And people are going to be upset with her for a very long time. She is correct in saying that the cast members are probably going to stay bonded together through the common enemy that is her and Tom. And if Tom hightails out of there and she comes back, it's going to be all directed at her. But she said they did not hook up in the jacuzzi. However, that Tom did not want to divulge what did happen in the jacuzzi. So I don't know what was up with that. But nevertheless, that's what was going on there. Again, I mentioned, she said she felt isolated and that Tom's the only person there. She did feel that if she shared any of things that were going on, because they had kind of agreed that they wouldn't talk about things, wouldn't let things go on. This is where the coaching thing comes in, right? Now that she is kind of on an island to herself, other than her family members, if she does betray Tom, which I guess in essence is what she's doing now in this confessional, Tom is going to leave her too, which now that we know in real time, it looks like they're not together anyway. So that's the greatest fear, I guess, that she had has now happened. She did talk about, the big one. Well, there was also one element that I didn't mention. It talked about that necklace that was verified. Yes, that's basically the lightning bolt. She did say, yeah, this was about to symbolize what Tom had begun to mean to her. And it took me a minute to even see a photo with Tom wearing it. And then I happened to see one last night, like, oh, okay, so yeah, they did do it. And I did see the episode where she was actually buying her lightning bolt. And so, yeah, so that was a thing, and that was for real, and then that was that, and everybody knew it, but yeah, she confirmed that. But the biggest thing of it all is, if all the rest of the stuff was in garbage enough, is that she shared that, yes, she did actually sleep with Tom in the house that Ariana and Tom shared together. And not only did she do that, because you remember how Tom emphatically said, absolutely not, was there any kind of relations going on with that woman in this home. Well, we find out that when Ariana was actually going back to Florida because her grandmother had passed away, is when she decided, Raquel being her dearest best friend, or one of her best friends, obviously, wasn't like she was the number one, decided it would be a good idea to go ahead and hop her tail on over to his house and have the relations that they did. And I think that was probably the one moment that she actually broke. I think that's when we started to see, all the awkward smiling and laughing and all that kind of stuff kind of glide to the wayside. Because if I'm not mistaken, they did make references to her grandmother. So she's probably thinking about, oh my God, what if this happened to me in my situation? Maybe one of the few moments that you actually saw, a sense of remorse or a sense of really reflecting on what I just did. But that was the one that she couldn't get past. And maybe, who knows, maybe a family member actually said something about it, because I'm pretty sure she's talked about it to somebody and maybe they know about it. She seems like she's kind of just open mouth, type of thing. Like she'll just say whatever she needs to say and not worry about it. And so it's possible that's what took place. That's possible what happened. But it was really sad. I think that the fact that they threw away such relationships. There was something I heard that Andy had shared in an interview with that Variety video that I had saw, where he had felt that he thinks that Raquel did not really maybe believe or realize that the friendships that she met in this group were real friendships, right? Like, she was kind of playing along to a script. She was playing along as if she was on a pageant scene. It was really bizarre. It was really weird. And I agree with Lisa when she mentioned that as well. Also, to that end, Andy says, I think that she really felt that didn't know just how close they really were. And I guess maybe felt that, maybe they were going to just say, oh yeah, we're close now. And then maybe next season, now we hate you. I don't know. But from what everything I saw from all accounts, it really did seem like it was a really heartwarming, authentic relationship with Raquel and Sheena, and Raquel and Ariana. We already know how Lala feels. So there's that. Katie was willing to give her a chance. So I thought that was quite interesting that she had felt that way. Or again, this was Andy's thought about it, that she didn't realize really just how special this group was and how they really, the ones that did like her, how they really did like her. And let's face it, she was in just about every dang scene on the last season. So she was very much in the mix, even before we knew what was going on. So at the end of the day, she really, slighted herself on that. But I believe that's what it broke her soul, was when she had to talk about the fact that, yeah, she messed with her best friend's man in their home while she was mourning her grandmother. So that was pretty despicable. And again, so I just kind of feel like, nothing really was said that would make me feel different than how I felt. Does it make me feel tumbling down back to the ground zero? I could see that from James's perspective, that, yeah, if you were kind of getting to a point in your mind that, oh, I'm just over it, or maybe we'll forgive and this and that and the other, this could reignite some things. So it'll be interesting to see when the new season pops up, what exactly takes place, and how they move in this following months behind this scandal. The one thing that I would be interested to see is Ariana on her life after. I'm interested in seeing, her and Katie get that shop up, something about her up and running. I'm interested in seeing how they're able to move forward in other things. And, we're seeing quite a bit of commercials going on right now. Ariana and was it Sheena and Lala have an Uber Eats commercial, and then there's also a commercial with a shaving razor type of commercial or whatever. So there's things that are going on. There's lots of opportunities happening, and I would like to see the after. As far as Tom's concerned, it is what it is. But I would like to see how she is able to move forward and really kind of live her best life, because she deserves it. She really does deserve it. So yeah, that's kind of how things wrapped up. I'm glad that she was able to, Ariana, get out. She needs to say, I kind of feel like she left it all on the floor. She had her moments definitely where she was vulnerable. And I think that, it was not an easy thing to do, but she did it, and now it's done and it's behind them, and she can really freshly move on, get out of that house, because that's not even the place she needs to be. And there's apparently she's running around with a new guy. So hopefully that will be something that will last. Who knows? Or if not, at least be fun in the moment and for however long it does last. So I do wish her well on that. At the end of the day, life is short. If we've learned nothing at all, life is short, and it doesn't really bode well if you're not able to do what you can to live the best of it when you are here and able to do so. So, that being said, I would love to know your thoughts. Did you watch the Vanderpump Rules reunion? Did you see part one, part two, part three? What did you think about the additional truths? I like to call them confessions and dark truths that came about last night. Do you think that it was pretty much on par for how you already felt? I would love to know your thoughts. Do you think that, can't even say, do we think Raquel and Tom is going to stay together? Because it doesn't appear that they are. And I don't think they're going to get back together because I don't see how it would be worth it. But I mean, I guess you could take on from the perspective, like if we do get back together, then maybe it was true love. Maybe it was all worth it to just reckless abandon everything and be together. I just don't see that happening, quite frankly. But you never know. So yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up for this wrap up. I'm surprised it's over now, at least for this show, because it has been so engaging from really the beginning of the season, and then with everything going on out in the world in regards to what was happening. So yeah, it's kind of like, wow, we could put it down for a little bit and we'll see when the new season pops back up. But I am so glad that you had an opportunity to tune in and just take a view along with me. And I do hope that if you haven't gotten a chance to take a look at part one and part two, that you do, and let me know your thoughts about what was going on in part one and part two. So of course I did a nice little wrap up and review about what was happening in there, and of course I had some questions for you, so go ahead and leave those in there for me because I would love to know your thoughts. And I think that again is going to do it for this wrap up. And I'm so glad that you were here. And if you are new here, go ahead and subscribe, be a part of the family. I would love for you to be a part of the family. I am so appreciative of all of the members that have come along on this journey thus far. And so go ahead and add yourself to the list. I would so appreciate it. I do lots of recaps, reviews, different shows and such. We got a lot of things going on right now, but yeah, I've got some more videos that will be coming up. I'll be coming live on a couple of other things as well in the future. Do watch the community tab because I do post some things out there as well, things that I'm doing that might be a little bit different than the schedule that I keep with my regular standard videos, but there'll be many of those too. So I do celebrity news information as well. So go ahead and check those videos out. But until then, I wish for you a blessed day. I hope that all things work to your greater good. Take care and be safe. And until next time, bye.